It's Omaha Beach. Wounded knee, Rourke's drift. The killing fields, the first day on the Somme. World War III in North Jersey. And only now, pouring automatic fire into a human wall, do I feel something like peace.
This isn't vengeance. It's punishment. There's nothing to help you when the darkness falls. Now it's my turn.
Francis Castiglione, aka The Punisher, made his debut in the comic world during the Amazing Spider-Man issue 129. He was created by Gary Conway, John Romita Sr., and Ross Andru. A villain who was known as the Jackal put a contract killing out on Spider-Man, believing the webhead should have his life systematically destroyed. Thus, Frank Castle was forced into a world of crime, corruption, extortion, and blood within the city that never sleeps. When conceiving thoughts about the Punisher's inspiration, it became apparent that Marvel leaned into a popular action series called The Executioner: War Against the Mafia. In fact, you can deduce that this entire premise was the synthetic makeup that molded Frank Castle into the character we appreciate today. Stan Lee gave his 2 cents on conceptualizing the name, paraphrasing to Conway that a name like the Assassin might be a little too harshly received by the audience. There's a robot cyborg character that I implemented in Fantastic Four with the name called the Punisher. You could use that instead. Conway simply agreed to this nomenclature, and I think it was very fitting if you want my personal opinion. The Assassin sounds like a boring, generic creator-wrestler stereotype compared to the Punisher, which sounds super unique. The Punisher story extends to a family principle, as Frank Castle is a long decorated war veteran who has returned from an unspeakable evil. That evil revolves around the atrocities that were committed in Vietnam or Afghanistan in more modern iterations. Some soldiers, some brothers in arms, even wrestle with the idea that their comrade lost a piece of humanity during Frank's tour on the battlefield. The only thing that held Frank's composure was Maria, Frank Jr., and Lisa. The Castle family prepared a family picnic during one unfaithful day in Central Park. The positive vibe surrounding this warm summer day bled infinite darkness as gunfire rattled across the atmosphere during a particular mob hit. The crossfire took the lives of many innocent civilians, but the most prevalent takeaway was the burial of Frank's humanity. As he frantically dropped on the ground, on his knees in anguish during the aftermath, he found out the startling truth. Maria took a 9mm bullet through the heart. Frank Jr. was shot in the back of the head as the bullet ripped through his open mouth, and Lisa was shot through the abdomen. She slowly, painfully died, as the expression on her face didn't mirror a little girl whatsoever. Castle tried to take this case to the justice system, do things right in the way of identifying the criminals who had potential involvement. The case was eventually dropped, forgotten about, and not pursued any further. Believing that the justice system failed him in the biggest possible way, Frank Castle morphed into a vigilante who waged a one-man war on crime. He will serve as the judge, jury, and executioner in every singular circumstance. He donned a white skull because, after all, any anti-hero could do with a little symbolism. This white skull represents an avenue for death against every criminal who preyed on the innocent. Memento mori is the main Latin expression that exclaims the premise, remember that you have to die. I also have to remember how stupid some of the police force were in real life for brandishing Frank's logo like a random ass hood ornament. I don't think they were well aware that this persona was created due to the failure that involved going by the book. Frank Castle hates the justice system immensely for this reason alone. He'll fight or elude police, probably won't kill them, however, he doesn't respect them in the slightest. If you still don't believe this notion, then maybe you should start reading comics just a little bit more than intended. The big draw here is that Frank Castle isn't a superhero, he doesn't have superpowers, and he's not impervious to bodily harm. He's a heavily trained soldier who uses the same tools of the trade that the villains do, same for like heavy firepower or using wits against criminals, etc. He goes against those who plant a corrupt seed within the world. We can still make a case for Castle's insane tolerance to overwhelming brute force. This is a very unique asset to the Punisher, and it has several citations for high pain tolerance. In the comics, he's built up a resistance to grievous injury since he used himself as bait for torture to extract information. A case can be made if we take the Netflix run under advisement here. Castle's skull had a bullet fragmentation that should have left him dead to rights. It's astounding to think that a do not resuscitate order couldn't finish Castle off for good since he came back to life hours later. This fractured lobe led to the habitual fight or flight response that blocks out very painful attacks. Remember that Castle is a soldier, so that means social engineering, ways of escape, stealth tactics, and marksmanship is heavily applied to his skill set. Castle's morals, along with this post-traumatic stress, can be interpreted in various ways. I like to use Punisher Born as the tip of the iceberg for this one. It is profoundly obvious that war had a lot to do with this, as Daredevil once puts it. There's also an unhinged nature to Frank Castle, who thoroughly enjoys obliterating scum on a daily basis. For example, Castle's code of ethics is still honorable in the Vietnam War. We see a situation where Castle has a teammate that tries to rape a captured Viet Cong. Castle then proclaims that we're just here to slaughter our enemy and nothing else. The same teammate is then drowned and disposed of by Frank Castle, which shows that even opposing sides or slaves don't deserve these inhuman acts. There's also an unknown entity claiming that this is what Frank wants: to kill, slice, and decapitate his way to freedom, to the point where he becomes barely recognizable in one of the presented panels. Garth Ennis wrote this because there's a possibility that this is a growing inner monologue that isn't even real and might be one of Frank's personal demons filling his ear with the thing that he needs more and more. The thing that Frank needs is 100% pure and unadulterated violence. We could see that Frank's happiness suppressed his feelings for a while, which all went to shit when the Mafia took away everything that made his world sane. There's a perfect argument for morals in Daredevil Season 2 that I will fully place in this video unedited.
Frank. That's your real name? You get off threatening innocent people?
He's only in danger because you squealed, because
You had a
can't
gun
follow
on him, you
orders.
thumbed back the hammer.
Well, that was for you, part of the show.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I really have to spell it out for you, Red, huh? I'm disappointed. Listen carefully, okay? Are you listening? Yeah? How about now? You listening? Feel it? You're not that guy, Red.
You want to explain that to the orphans and the widows of the men you killed?
Shit, that's what you think. I'm just some crazy asshole going around unloading on whoever I want to,
Yeah,
huh?
that's exactly what I think.
That is.
You think you're anything else?
I think that the people I kill need killing. That's what I think.
You left men hanging from meat
Yeah, well,
hooks.
they got off easy, in my opinion.
You shut up a hospital.
Yeah, nobody got hurt or didn't deserve it.
What about you, Frank? What happens the day someone decides you deserve it?
Tell you what, they better not miss.
You run around this city like it's your damn shooting gallery.
Yeah, what do you
think
do? What do you do? You act like it's a playground. You beat up the bullies with your fists, you throw them in jail, everybody calls you a hero, right? And then a month, a week, a day later, they're back on the streets doing the same goddamn thing.
So you just put him in the morgue.
You goddamn right I do.
You ever doubt yourself, Frank?
Not even for a second.
Really? Really? You never think for 1 second,
Shit, I just killed a human being.
It's being pretty generous.
a human being who did a lot of stupid shit, maybe even evil, but had one small piece of goodness in him. Maybe just a scrap, Frank, but something. And then you come along and that one tiny flicker of light gets snuffed out forever.
I think you're wrong.
Which part?
All of it. I think there's no good in the filth that I put down. That's what I think.
And how do you know?
I just know. Look around, Red. This city, it stinks. It's a sewer. It stinks and it smells like shit, and I can't get the stink out of my nose. I think that this world, it needs men that are willing to make the hard call. That's what I think. I think you and me are the same. We're the same. You know it. Only I do the one thing that you can't. You hit them and they get back up. I hit them and they stay down. It's permanent. I make sure that they don't make it out on the street again. I take pride in that.
Let me ask you this.
What's that?
What about hope?
Oh, fuck.
Come on, Frank.
About Santa Claus? You want to talk about Santa Claus?
I live in the real world, too,
Yeah.
and I've seen it.
What have you seen?
Redemption, Frank. It's real.
Jesus
And it's
Christ.
possible. The people you murdered deserve another chance.
What, to kill again, rape again? Is that what
No,
you
Frank,
want?
to try again, Frank. To try.
Did you catch the clashing ideologies between these two characters that have a lot of similarities? Frank believes that the most hardcore criminals cannot be redeemed despite Daredevil's plea about redemption. This is one of the most gripping debates about character philosophies that I have seen in comic book media so far. You can even agree in the back of your mind that certain killers or child abusers are completely far from redemption. Although, what about the people who fits a less severe criteria? I'm talking pimps, drug pushers. Can they actually be redeemed? Frank's answer is ultimate and clear to the point on that one. You hit them and they get back up. I hit them and they stay down. It's permanent. You can make your own debate if you agree more with the Punisher, Daredevil, or both. Comment in the comment section below and let me know, but I felt this was worth mentioning in the video. The world is seen through a black and white lens with the Punisher. There's no shades of gray with the defense of dirtbags. There's also reasons for why Frank looks for violence as violence calls back to him. Once again, it was a great panel in the Garth Ennis run where Frank brutalized his neighbor after discovering that he was mercilessly cheating on his wife. Frank proclaims that Maria is dead, yet this guy is throwing away his marriage like it was a piece of shit to him. Frank gives him one final ultimatum and he tells his neighbor to run. He knows his anger is being unleashed, which is why he throws his neighbor right through a plate glass window. His family dying was the calling card that he needed that finally gave him some sick, twisted purpose. We could say that there's later renditions of the Punisher that tried to hollow him out for more sympathetic values as a means to create a more relatable character. Honestly, the Punisher's virtues aren't always relatable in the slightest, which is why people debate between comic accuracy or liberties being taken. Should the Punisher feel things, or should he be a faceless entity that continues to kill for justice with no real distraction? Imagine things where the Punisher wants to go back to a normal lifestyle again. No, the comic version just isn't capable of this emotion at all at times. This inner war, this inner turmoil is infinite for Frank Castle. A lot of true fans will ask for the latter, and it's a core candidate for what the Punisher is. There is no mercy, only punishment. He doesn't care about these criminals, he doesn't care about doing bad things to them, and he really doesn't care about anything else after the fact. His family's murder is on the line and he wants to make these people pay. If we talk about the series, The Punisher Frank Castle, then he's amassed a kill count within the thousands over 30 years of being a vigilante. This is some real motherfucking dedication right here. The Netflix rendition has its own charm in its own right, it's just not the essence of the Punisher, which will always be seen as death incarnate. Memento mori, remember that you have to die because death is inevitable. The Punisher will never let a child predator go simply because someone told him to stop, yet he did that in season 2, which is off base. The way we perceive Castle's inner conflict is watching scum die no matter what happens next. Even when Kingpin was cornered with no way out and unarmed, he told the Punisher, "Fuck you, just fucking do it." Castle responded easily with a cold, calculated gesture. Alright. The victimizers become the victims, no sympathy, no remorse. If we criticize out of character reactions, then we should take the Thomas Jane rendition under advisement just for a second. I know this was from the comics, but there's an interrogation scene where the Punisher plays with the idea of burning a criminal with a blowtorch to extract information, saying that the meat will be seared from every burn until a victim goes limp. The dialogue almost aligns with that cynical Punisher flair until a popsicle hits that goon's body. This is something that Punisher rarely does, and yes, like I said, I know this was from Chuck Dixon himself. That's why I use the word rarely, because this is something that Garth Ennis probably wouldn't do. I think that Garth Ennis's Punisher is a definitive example of someone who doesn't play with his food. He knows he's far detached from reality, where fear doesn't exist in his world, however, it exists for someone else. Like a wolf in sheep's clothing, Frank likes to study the flock or break down the human condition to see how much people can take before they shatter to pieces. Punisher Mac's Forces of Nature perfectly exemplifies when the torture approach comes into the equation for others. Torture's a funny thing. Some will spill everything the moment their nervous systems transmit the first hit of pain. It's not fear, it's a business decision. The profit of silence is not enough to offset the deficit of suffering. Others will ride it out to the bitter end. Then there's nobodies like Carter, Lutz, and Resnick. You could torture them, but they tend to shut down before you learn anything useful. No deals, no stoicism. They just pass out. Then afterwards, I guess you can only imagine the sheer brutality when Castle drops a struck match on a passed out mafioso. We're not even going to get into all the gory details regarding this, but I think this aftermath image speaks for itself. I'll let some of you interior decorators be the judge for this one. We've also seen that begging for mercy or criminals trying to aid the Punisher in order to live mostly ends in just one distinctive way.
Here, I can take you.
Once again, Frank has always been considered mentally deranged. He just doesn't care, man.
Anybody who came here today, hear me whine, hear me beg, please kiss my ass!
The other things you need to know about the character seem pretty minor, but many self-righteous heroes tend to annoy Punisher due to the conflicting ideologies. One of the most interesting ideologies, once again, involves the respect for people in the service. After all, Punisher doesn't kill that old soldier checking up on him in Daredevil Season 2, and he also refuses to fight Captain America even after Steve beats the living tar out of him. There's these little compromises, there are slight nudges that make Frank a fully realized character despite being labeled as a one-man killing machine. He's still very much obsessed with seeing the criminal underworld massacred, but there are brief glimpses of humanity that involve shadows of the past rushing him. It could either be slavers caught in worse situations, or it could be children in need. Despite talking a lot about Frank's murderous ways, he has been seen saving innocent people as an act of heroism. These deeds are either fueled by sympathy or serves as a benefit to drip feed Frank information. This was certainly the case with Martin Soap, a member within the Punisher task force. Speaking of forces, as usual, most cops either agree or disagree with Frank's military precision. That involves cleaning up the streets of NYC, by the way. Punisher has a gigantic arsenal that I just can't cover in one video. If you want a decent recommendation of all the weapons that Punisher uses, then I would say Punisher Armory is a good route to go for the comics. It's not action-packed or anything, yet who doesn't like a good gun breakdown from the Punisher? You can also get an abridged version of the Punisher describing weapons in the 2005 video game.
For long-distance brain surgery, this bolt-action 50 caliber does the trick. It's balanced, powerful, and accurate. A relic from Vietnam, and it weighs a ton. If something's made of meat, this device will cook it. Lots of bells and whistles, but it has a trigger, ammo, and a barrel, and that's all I need. It also fires high explosive grenades with a detonation delay.
The last thing to mention is that bitching dark van that the Punisher has as a trademark. It is called the Battle Van. The van is like a miniature hub that transports Frank and usually is heavily reinforced to kill targets or protect Frank during a dangerous high-speed chase. Bulletproof windows, a minigun, and even a robotic arm is used to keep the crime rate low. If I had favorite moments, then we'd be here endlessly, but I do have a handful, like the Punisher shooting Wolverine in the gonads and saying, "Don't worry, they'll grow back." Even more like throwing Monucci's limbless body into a fire, stepping on some guy on Punisher Warzone who had a fence impaled through him.
Holy shit!
Feeding chow to a shark, and even punching out a polar bear as a distraction. I just think I have a penchant for violence with all these violent motherfucking acts.
Please let me go.
Good worker. Kept his nose to the grindstone.
Either way, this is Renegade Operative signing off. What do you guys think about this video? Comment below and let me know. Tell me how you personally feel about the Punisher. Tell me your personal favorite moments of the Punisher in the comics or in other media, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will get back to you at my earliest convenience. Once again, I really enjoyed making this. I think I enjoyed making the last Essence video as well that involved Spider-Man. I will also put that in the description below if you want to see how I break down Spider-Man and other comic book heroes. Stay tuned for more Comic Zone discussions, and I will see you guys soon. Take care, peace, and be safe. Later.
Let me be what I'm meant to be.